Cristina Fernandes, we're very fortunate that Christina's agreed to speak to us. So she is a community diabetes educator. She's a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, professional home economist. I'm going to find out what that means from her. I probably need that because I don't know how to manage my finances properly. So Cristina is a contributor of multiple best-selling cookbooks, leads food demonstrations, and has provided national commentary on television. When she's not coaching people on healthy living, active living, and self-worth at the Langs Community Health Center that we're so fortunate to have in our community, she works from her home office. She coaches either on human connections, self-growth, the joy of serving others, or simply soaking in the beautiful life and facing challenges head-on. So she is very much an excellent motivator for all of us as we try to get going on our healthier lives today. She considers herself very grateful to be able to practice in a field that transfers information from her personal life, and she holds an immense amount of respect and passion and dedication for the work she does. So with great pleasure, I ask Cristina to come up and address us on dietary interventions.
Hi, thank you for that lovely introduction. And look at this crowd. Wow. You guys are up on Saturday here. That's amazing. You guys are taking these steps for your health. I want you to turn to the person beside you and give them a high five. Good for you guys. All right, so we've got a jam-packed day. Okay, so wait, let me see. Can I get this working? Up, this way, this way, okay. So what's on the menu for today? So I've got about 20 to 25 minutes. Might push it a little bit because I've got a lot to talk about today, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm really grateful to be able to share this with you. So we're going to talk about, we're going to do a little activity at first, so we'll get to that in a minute. And then we're going to talk about the magic diet, because I was told I wouldn't get paid today if I didn't tell you the secret diet out there. So I want to make sure that I get to that, okay? We'll talk about this spectrum of healthy eating and the next steps to getting there, okay? So how do we get started with that? And then taking a closer look at some of our food choices that we have today, and then we're going to have some time for questions, and I think we'll have a panel for that, okay? Okay, so in your packages, you have two handouts. I think they're in green papers, or there might be one. This is something that Michelle and Dr. Pandy's team has come up with, and they've kind of given this to me and said, can you speak about some of these choices? So we're going to bust that out, okay? I think it might be double-sided. I'm seeing double-sided, okay? So with the one side, you'll see some breakfast options, some lunch options, and some dinner options. And then on the other side of that, you're going to see a whole bunch of snack options, okay? So what I want you to do, without looking at those numbers, those scary, scary numbers, just look at the kind of food that's on there and circle what you would most likely choose on a regular day. What would you normally choose out of the options that were provided for you for your breakfast, for your lunch, for your dinner, and then maybe a few of your snack options, okay? If you were to skip a meal, if you normally skip breakfast, normally skip lunch, or normally skip dinner, just put a big strike through on that meal, okay? And if there's something on there that's just like, this isn't what I eat at all, feel free to mark something that you actually eat, or put some snack options that you would actually select. Now, I did notice that on the dinner options, that the first three are just really the protein parts, okay? So, I don't know if there's a... No, there isn't a laser. Okay, so for the steak, the salmon, and the chicken, you probably would have something else with that, right? So you can write down like a rice or whatever, some vegetable, whatever it is that you'd have with that, okay? And you can work on that while we go through some of these slides. Okay, so diet versus fad diet. This is my pet peeve as a dietitian. When people use the word diet to kind of refer to something that's more of a fad or something that they're going to be on for a short period of time. Because really, diet means anything that you usually consume over the course of the day. So anything you normally eat or drink, that's your diet. So everyone's on a diet. you're on the Judy diet or the Susie diet or the Cristina diet or the Dr. Pandy diet. You are on your diet, okay? A fad diet is anything kind of besides that. So anything that you're doing that's not inside of your norm, something that you're used to that goes with the flow of your life. Fad diets tend to mean it's usually an unbalance of meals or restriction of certain ingredients or food groups or food specifically. Usually don't last very long, okay? And anything that we're doing that isn't part of our habit usually lasts about 3 weeks, 6 months max, okay? So we really want, now that when we work on how to incorporate healthy eating, we want to work with your diet. We want to work with a John diet, and we want to make tweaks from there and make things happen so that they become more of the flow of your life and something that lasts forever, as opposed to something that's only going to last a few weeks. Okay? We do talk about diets like heart health diet or a diabetic diet or diabetes diet. There's no such thing as a diabetic diet. Really, it's just about healthy eating. Now, when we label a heart health diet or a diabetes diet or a DASH diet, so dietary approaches to stopping hypertension, when we're talking about that, we're kind of breaking things up. So there's a whole bunch of characteristics of healthy eating. And so if our primary focus is blood pressure, then we'll talk about the DASH diet, because that's all of those healthy things that we can do to specifically target our blood pressure. But all of this stuff, managing our blood sugar, keeping our heart healthy, keeping our blood pressure healthy, all of those things are part of life, of healthy, optimal life, right? So that's what I want you to keep in mind when we talk about those types of diets. Okay, so I guess you should go back to that. I hope I still get paid. There is no such thing as a magic diet. So so don't feel that there is that magic bullet out there. It's just simply making yourself better. So that brings me to this slide here. Think of healthy eating as a spectrum, okay? Nobody here, including myself, is eating optimally or making the healthiest choices every day, all the time. Okay? And the reverse is true. Not everybody is making the most horrible choices out there all day, every day. We're all in between. We're all in this spectrum of healthy eating. So really, it's a matter of asking yourself, where are you on that spectrum? Where are you on that spectrum? Where do you want to be? And what are you willing, able, or wanting to do to get there? And that's all we have to work with, guys. It's within you, and it's about being a healthier you than you were yesterday. I like how Dr. Pandy put that. Maybe it takes some of the pressure off, realizing that we never really arrive. I think people think like once I get to that 50-pound weight loss, I'm there. No, I'm going to tell you, you're going to get to that 50-pound weight loss, and then you're going to want more. Okay? You're going to get there, and then you're going to say, well, I want to be fitter or stronger or more energetic. And I love this picture because everyone's struggling with it. I don't know if you can see it from there, but this little guy here, it says the next level, and he's looking at this hill, but his hat says coach on it. His or her hat says coach on it. So the coaches, the fittest of the fit, they're dealing with the same thing. They're on the spectrum. They might be a little bit further ahead, but they're dealing with the same thing. Where am I with my healthy life? Where do I want to be? And what am I willing to do to get there? Okay? So those are 3 really important questions that I want you to take from today. And you're all sitting here today. You're all here learning something. And I know that you're going to be able to walk away and use at least one thing from the last speaker, or Dr. Pandy's talk, or all the speakers that we have coming up, and hopefully from this talk too, that you'll be able to do one thing to make yourself healthier than you were yesterday. So I want all of you to say this: I am healthy. I'm a healthier me today than I was yesterday. Can you say that out loud with me? That's awesome, okay? And I promise you, if you can say that with confidence, you're exactly where you want to be, okay? And really, you're the only one that you should be comparing yourself to. Because I'm not sure if it was Dr. Pandy who said it, but Judy down the street running 10 kilometers every day and comparing yourself to that person. Do you know Judy's comparing herself to the person that's running 20 kilometers every day? Right? Compare yourself to you. Where are you? Where were you? Where do you want to be? And what are you willing to do to get there? Okay, so let's take the next steps then. We don't know what we don't know, okay? But if we can kind of explore that a little bit more and find out what it is that we don't know or we need a little bit of help with or coaching with, that's a really great step into healthier eating, okay? So finding out where your gaps are. Understanding meal balance and portions, and I can do a 3-hour class on this alone. So, I mean, really, do we know what a balanced meal looks like? What does that look like to us? I think a lot of people have seen that plate model. You've got the plate and half a plate of vegetables, a quarter of your plate of starch, a quarter of your plate of protein. I see a lot of heads shaking, yes. So what does that mean? So what is that balance? Do we know what a protein is? Like, do we know what to put in that quarter plate? Do we know what a protein even is? Do we know what a carbohydrate is? Do we know what vegetables are? Those are all things, if the answer is no, it's okay. It's just knowing that you don't know that and being able to understand, that's some information that would be really great to know for healthier eating tips, okay? High quality choices. Do we know what high quality foods are? Do we know that it's low fat? Ultimately, we have a low fat diet, and when we do choose fats, that we're choosing the healthy fats over the unhealthy fats. Again, we've got a whole other presentation on this alone for a 2-hour class, and you're welcome to come to it. So it's about knowing, do we want to have a high fiber diet or a low fiber diet? High fiber diet, right? Ultimately, we want low sugar, right? We want balance, we want high density. So does anyone know when I say nutrient dense? Nutrient dense would mean that you're having something that gives you a lot of vitamins and minerals for a smaller amount of calories versus something else that gives you a lot of calories but doesn't give you very much vitamins and minerals. So these are all sorts of things that we want to know before we make our choices, right? Because the last thing we want to do is make a choice and we think we're doing good, and we're actually not doing our body much good, and you don't even like the taste of it, right? That would suck. So we really want to make sure we know what high-quality choices are. Spacing of our meals. Do we know that if we break the fast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, that we keep our metabolism up, which is going to help us keep our body weights healthy or lose some excess body weight? Do we know that that means that we're going to be working with our body as opposed to working against our body when we keep our metabolism up? Do we know that we want to go no more than 4 to 6 hours throughout the day without eating? Right? So these are all things that, if I didn't know, if you're thinking to yourself, I didn't know that, that's okay. We have coaches for that, and you can come see us for it. Is it food skills? Do you know all the stuff that I just talked about? But preparing foods or planning meals or cooking the foods is something that you really struggle with. So maybe it's food demonstrations or cooking demonstrations that you want to focus your time on. Is it the budget? Are we under the impression that healthy eating costs more? So we can help you understand how to eat healthy on a budget, on a tight budget. Okay? Is it accessibility? So do you have access to healthy, fresh, real whole foods on a regular basis and a variety of them on a regular basis? Or the support. So you could know all of these things, but then you're in a household that doesn't have that sort of motivation, or they don't have the same health goals as you. And don't get me wrong, you can be in a household and they not have the same health, they don't have the same goals as you. That's totally fine. But is it a matter of helping them understand what your goals are? So I had a client the other day who he wanted to share his health goals. So he said, I'm going to start telling my family, I want to lose a little bit of weight. That's my goal. Well, that's the desired outcome. How are you going to get there? What are the steps that you're going to get there? So he's got a whole bunch of family members. One is everyone's got their own idea on how to lose weight, right? And everyone's got their own idea on what the best thing for somebody else to do to lose weight. Somebody might be focusing more on physical activity. Another person might be focusing more on the diet piece. So if you got one family member looking at you when you have a piece of cake, when you just said, I'm hoping to lose some weight, and you've got this family member saying, well, you said you wanted to lose weight, why are you eating the cake? How's that going to make you feel? That's not going to support you, right? Whereas if your goal was, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes at least 3 times a week. I'm going to start doing that. So, you know what? If you could remind me, if you see that I haven't walked in 2 days, can you kindly remind me that I haven't gone for my walk? And then you've given them permission to tell you specifically, to remind you specifically of what your goal is, instead of feeling overwhelmed with all of these things you could be doing for your desired outcome. Does that make sense? And then all that other stuff that impacts our choices, that some of us aren't even aware of, a lot of us aren't even aware of. The marketing, the emotions, any stress factors. All of these things impact our choices. And we have a wonderful self-management center. Visit the booth. They've got a great class called Craving Change for that sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of things that are impacting our choices. Okay? So explore these. Find out where the gaps are. Find out what you need to know a little bit more about. Okay, so let's start practicing that then. Let's make this a little bit more practical. If you get your sheets out, we have some of those choices. So let's go through breakfast here. I wonder if we can get the mic out and have but does anyone have anything to say about the breakfast that they chose and why? Is anyone going to brave it? Do we have the mics going around? Yeah? Without looking at those numbers for now, just the choice. Does anyone want to brave it? Oh, we've got one over here. We've got a brave one over here. Yogurt and fruit. Okay. So this woman up here said the yogurt and fruit parfait, but Greek yogurt because you don't want the sugar in it. So Greek yogurt is actually a processing method to the yogurt. You can make your own Greek yogurt at home if you'd like to put it through a cheesecloth and get all of the extra whey dripping off, and it makes a more creamy yogurt. So there's definitely Greek yogurt out there. Actually, the highest fat Greek yogurt that I found in the store is Greek yogurt. Okay, so the highest that I can find nowadays is 9% milk fat, and it's Greek yogurt. So don't feel like Greek yogurt is the healthier option. It's healthier because you can get a less milk fat percentage and still get that creaminess to it. But you can still get some that have a lot of sugar in it. So you want to look at the labels for that, and that's something we could definitely look more at. So that's a great option, though, if you're using, and that's the thing, and I love how you said that, but I would use Greek yogurt because I don't want the extra sugar. So she was keen to know that all of these options are very variable, okay? So you can get an oatmeal that, let's take a peanut butter sandwich and your oatmeal. I can make a peanut butter sandwich a healthier option than an oatmeal option. We can do that. Okay, so if I picked an instant oatmeal loaded with sugar and goes into my bloodstream really, really quickly, and I added a high-fat milk to it, so now I've got extra fat and calories to it, that's not going to be a better option than if I chose a whole grain bread with natural peanut butter without any added salt, added sugar to it, and just put a little bit of jam, and jam that's made with just fruit, no sugar added. Okay, so that's another thing I want you to realize. There's no like magic bullet. There's no like, oh, eat oatmeal every morning. Oatmeal's amazing, and if you do choose the healthier option of oatmeal, and I'll talk about that, then that is a great choice, and I recommend that to everybody to incorporate that into their everyday, into their weeks on a regular basis. But the point is when you look at all of those choices in front of you, there is a way of making a healthier version or an unhealthier version of that exact food, which is kind of a beautiful thing, because that way you can still eat all of the foods that you love and make them healthier. Okay, and that's what I mean by we can help you get to that place where you want to be. We definitely want you enjoying your meals. So let's take a look then. So the balance then, when we're talking about balance, we want as many food groups in there as possible. And that gives us a nice variety. But also that plate model, going back to emphasis on vegetables, and then we've got some protein and we've got some carbohydrates there too. Okay, and then hopefully we have some fruit throughout the day and maybe some milk or an alternative to milk in there as well. So the ratings, I mean, we can have a conversation and change the ratings slightly, but then the ratings here would be that oatmeal, because we've got your whole grains, you've got your fruit, and you've got some, if you added milk to that, a low-fat milk, then it's going to be a really great option, right? And especially if you're doing a steel cut or a large flake oat, that's going to be really, really healthy. The yogurt parfait, you've got your dairy, you've got your fruit in there as well. This is just the two. So the bagel and cream cheese, again, it's really different. I mean, like you can go to Timmy's and you can get a maple cinnamon bagel that's 350 calories, and then you can get a cinnamon bagel that's 300. So, I mean, it's variable, and it depends on the cream cheese that you're using too. Nutrient dense, again, the oatmeal is going to take it, okay? If we're using a high quality steel cut or large flake oat and we made that with either water or a low fat milk and whole berries, that's going to take the prize. And if anyone has specific questions to these, please, I'll be here throughout the day as well, so we can have a conversation about it at the booth as well. So high fiber, again, the oatmeal and berries, added sugar. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me still? And then low sodium. Again, instant oatmeal is quite high in sodium. So if this was an instant oatmeal, my star rating would change. But if you're doing like a steel cut oat again, like I said, it's no sodium, no sugar added to that. It would be anything that you're adding to your oatmeal that would be the added sugar or salt. So I have this overall heart healthy day rating, and so oatmeal takes the win for that, 5 stars. Okay. Okay, so choosing for lunch then. We've got our Caesar salad and chicken. We've got a Big Mac, a tuna wrap, a ham and cheese sandwich, and tomato soup. Okay, so just as is, I'd say the tuna wrap has the best balance there. Okay, we've got the whole grain wrap, we've got some vegetables, and we've got some protein, we've got some tuna. Okay, so really great option. Nutrient dense, again, that tuna wrap is going to take the prize. High fiber, low added sugar. So that Caesar salad, although it's got a really great rating for low added sugar, it's not going to have an overall fabulous rating because of how high fat it is, okay, and how high sodium it is. But out of these options, it actually takes second prize, okay? And that Big Mac has some bread, it's got some lettuce, it's got some meat, and it's got some cheese. It's got like all 4 food groups in it, right? And that's what I say when I say we can have the same option and a healthier version. So you can make a burger at home that's a healthier version of this, okay? But this one specifically is made in a very, is in a deep fryer, it's low quality bread, it's low quality meat, it's processed cheese, so I wouldn't even really consider this cheese source. So it's really low quality, and this is what I mean by lots of calories in this. You're going to get a lot of energy and calories, but very, very little vitamins and minerals. And those vitamins and minerals are what we want to keep our bodies optimally functioning well. So we need those vitamins and minerals to help us burn the energy that we're consuming and help us think and function throughout the day. So you don't want to be wasting that. That's what we call empty calories. So if anyone wonders what that means, empty calories, it's when we get a lot of calories without those vitamins and minerals. Okay? So for dinner, again, I mean, the steak, salmon, and chicken, I'm going to assume that we meant that we're going to have it with some sort of side. I know a few people who would just have a slab of steak without anything else, but for the most part, we're going to be having something else with that, right? So balance, very poor for all of them. Actually, pizza wins for balance on this if we're not looking at having the chicken and the fish and the meat without anything else, because there's just protein. Nutrient density. So we've got a really great nutrient dense steak and salmon and chicken. So a lot of nutrients in there. But that pizza, for instance, has a lot of calories but doesn't have those vitamins and minerals we need. But you can make a really healthy, delicious pizza. Don't get me wrong. There is healthy ways to have pizza. Okay? So increased fiber. This is where I was kind of thinking about, okay, we're going to make sure that we're having the steak and the salmon with something other than just the meat source. Oh, I see. This is a little bit off. Okay, that's why. So our ratings are a little bit off here. So overall, the salmon would take the win, especially if you have, some starch with it and some vegetables with it as well. And then the chicken breast, and then I'd say the pasta, and hopefully we'd have some sort of vegetable with that as well, and some protein. And then the steak and the pizza. Okay, so snacks. There's tons of snacks to choose from. I mean, these are just only a few options, and I don't see any like cut up vegetables with dip or anything on there. Those are really great options as well. I don't often say no to anything. For the most part, we can usually make something fit into your diet. But then there's some things that just like, it's really not worth going for if you knew how unhealthy it is. And donuts is one of those things. So like, I mean, you can have, of course, like I said, there's room to have it every once in a while, but if you've got specific health goals, it's going to be very detrimental to those health goals most of the time. And there's often something that you can have to replace the donut. So whether it be, a cookie or some other sort of baked good that you enjoy, that you don't necessarily need that. The other one here is the Frappuccino. And that has more to do with just, it's really easy to drink a lot of calories. So, and it's usually not worth it for a lot of people. So you've just consumed like sometimes almost 1,000 calories in some of these drinks. And people don't realize that. So we want to be careful with that. And then the ones that I've circled are the ones that I would probably go to snacks more often. Granola bar is one of those, if you can make your granola bars at home, that's awesome. There's a lot of preservatives in a lot of the ones that are in the stores, but there's some good ones out there. And then those other ones are more to be a little bit more cautious about. So you can have them. You can definitely fit them in, but they're treats, right? So you wouldn't want to be going to them all the time. And things like picking frozen yogurt over the ice cream, if it's a lower calorie, a lower saturated fat, then that's going to be a better option. And then there's always some room for some alcohol for most of us, like unless you've been told otherwise. So 0 to 2 drinks per day, maximum 14 for males and maximum 9 for females. You can stay within that and it would still be considered a healthy option, so enjoy that if you can. Okay? I think that's it for time. So thank you so much, and keep telling yourself you can do this, okay?
Thank you so much, Cristina. That was fantastic. Some very excellent pearls of wisdom and lots of questions. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. But again, Cristina, you can speak with her afterwards personally if there's some individual questions. And there are some that were, again, a little too personal to read out in public. So again, reach out to Cristina afterwards, and then we'll again have some panel discussions. For time, we'll try to stay on track. Remember, I need people to fill out evaluations, so as you're going through that big like long or white sheet, make sure you're filling it out. And remember, when you're going through, we'll have a break right after this so people can stretch a little bit. The sitting disease, we don't want that catching up with us. So, but let's get started a little bit with some questions. So a couple of questions around the same idea. So there's some talk about the value of natural sugars versus processed sugars. Maple syrup has been promoted as a good source of sugar for health. First, do you think that there's a specific type of sugar that's better than others? And why do you think added sugar is worse than sugar that comes from whole foods and whole fruits?
Right. Great question. And so when you're getting, is the mic on? Yeah? Okay. When you're getting sugar from its natural source, in its natural source, so when you're getting fructose from fruit, when you're eating the whole fruit, it goes back to what I said about that quality. So you're getting a high density, nutrient density. You're getting lots of vitamins and minerals with that sugar. The sugar is calories. It's what our body needs to operate. So our bodies use glucose. And so it's the simplest form of sugar. But you're not getting all of the other things. Nature has made eating very easy for us. That's actually probably the secret. They've made, so if you take an apple, it has that combination of your protein, a little bit of fat, and a lot of vitamins and minerals, and that sugar that our bodies need, almost in the exact ratio of what we need. So we don't have to be calculating everything if we eat things the way they are produced. We muck things up when we start making all of these processed foods and things that we think are going to be making things more convenient. It kind of complicates things a little bit. And in terms of adding sugar, when you do need to add sugar, ultimately, number one is that we have a low added sugar diet. So we're not adding sugar as much as possible. But when you do want to add sugar, yeah, a maple syrup has a lower glycemic index, let's say, but it's still sugar. It's still sugar, and it will still, if you're just having sugar with very little other nutrients or healthy fats and protein to slow it down, then it is a stress test to your pancreas. So I think our first speaker talked about having that syrupy beverage to test your blood sugars at the lab. It's the same thing. You do that every time you take some juice or some pop. You're doing a stress test to yourself every time you do that. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. I hope that answers the question. If not, we can come back to it.
So we've got Mike walking around. There's a question here by the mic. Anyone that wants to ask a question by the mic, just raise your hands and the guys will come up and find you. Remember to fill out questions on the cards. Any ones that we don't get to, we'll try to address at the end, or you can speak to Cristina personally. So we'll go to the mic here before we go on to some other.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your presentation. I do have a question where we're talking about healthy eating, and we're all aware of sugars and the carbs and all that good stuff, but where is this whole thing of organic versus insecticide sprays fall into all this? Like, we go to the store, and you think you're buying something really healthy, but then it's all got these sprays on them. So is this where does that all fit into healthy eating? So is organic better? It's more expensive?
Yeah.
But
Great question. And you'll find with me, you don't get a yes or no. It's very much, it depends. And so organic is healthy, but if it's organic and it's come from a long distance, then let's say like produce, for instance, and it's come from a long way, then now they've picked that produce at not an optimal time, so it's not as nutrient dense, and then you've got the travel time as well. So that's not going to be as healthy for us than something that we found locally. So locally grown and fresh. So locally grown, fresh, or frozen are going to be your healthiest options. If you can go above that and pick the local, fresh, organic, I would do that. Absolutely, I would do that. But it's not the be-all and end-all to healthy eating. Does that help?
that helps a lot. Actually, I'd really like to try to support the local farmers.
Yeah.
In the summer, it's great, but in the winter,
It's harder. Yeah, and that's where that process, like canning and freezing and knowing how to do that, gardening. It's that like a novel idea for some people, right? Having your own garden and learning how to do that. And there's so many studies about mental health and happiness and wellness, being able to do that. And now you're being physically active too while you're doing that, and eating healthy and saving money. So it's really great if that's something that would interest you to get started. There's so much support for that. You're welcome. Thank you.
So just, kind of follow up to that, certainly a lot of pick your own and grow your own farms out there, and reaching out to them certainly supports our local farmers as well, and good for our economy and our own health. But you know what, one of the things that has been a pet peeve of many of us is that, Health Canada and the regulatory bodies, they should really start regulating these terms, because these companies can throw these terms around without having to meet any specific standards. And that becomes a problem. So for example, light, the term light, you have this labeled everywhere, light, but when you actually read it, not necessarily truly light. It might be light compared to their own version of another product, and it might be 25% less than their own food, but compared to other options within that spectrum, it's not truly light. So, one of the hope is that we will be able to start regulating these terms so organic actually means something true and not just a marketing gimmick, or similarly the term light or low-cal. So those terms should, if they're going to be used in a capacity that guides people's nutritional choices, I think, hopefully Health Canada will actually start regulating that they mean something. But grow your own or staying local is often one of the best strategies to limit them. We're going to have to wrap up just because of time. We're going to take a couple of questions, and then we'll have to come back to the panel discussion. So, this has come up actually in 3 or 4 versions, so I'll try to summarize it in one. So, why do you think skipping a meal like breakfast, is it truly bad? People say, breakfast is such an important meal of the day. Is there a problem truly with skipping breakfast or skipping a meal? And a couple of people have asked, they have thought about doing that as a way to reduce their calories and potentially lose weight by skipping a meal. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it's not as easy as calories in versus calories out. And that's definitely an important concept. We want to move more and maybe eat less for a lot of us. But it doesn't work like that. Our bodies are very, very intellectual. They evolve very quickly. And so what happens when we skip a meal is our body starts to wonder, when am I going to get nutrients again? And how long is this going to go on for? So you're actually decreasing your metabolism. You're slowing down your metabolism, and you're training your body to store fat. And that's what I meant very quickly when I said working with your body as opposed to working against your body. And that's what happens when we start losing weight. A lot of us could lose a little bit more. When we lose weight or release weight, losing is something that we want to find again. So we don't want to find this again. So releasing your weight, usually it comes off pretty steadily or quickly in the beginning, and then we plateau, right? And then even though we up the physical activity and we decrease the amount of what we're eating, we seem to not be able to lose any more after that. We kind of just plateau, and that's where people get stuck, and that's where people say, what's the point? What's the point of doing this? And that's when you're working against your body. You don't want to jeopardize your metabolism. Work with your body. Give it what it needs, which is breaking the fast within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, and then making sure you have something to eat every at least 4 to 6 hours after that.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. I think, the idea of skipping a meal to lose weight is probably a fallacy. Your body is programmed for so many calories. It wants a certain amount of calories, and you'll end up eating it, but you might end up eating at the wrong time of day. You might end up with massive meals, and one of the problems for many of us is that we tend to stack our calories near the end of the day. Breakfast might be small, or people skip it. They might have a small lunch, and then they have a really big dinner, mostly partly timing. That's when they get home from work and things like that. And that does become a problem. Our body's metabolism can handle so many calories in any given sitting, and if you take it all at once, it will take relatively healthy calories and still turn it into not healthy calories and convert it to fats and things like that. So, spacing it out, and most animals are grazers, and as animals we should be grazers. We're having small amounts of food over the course of the day. Getting the same calories in, you're going to be much more efficient, likely. We're going to finish with one question from the audience over there, and we will try to get to more questions. Christina's talk was very thought-provoking, lots of questions here. But the question from the audience on the mic there, please.
Yep. Some sugar-free items on the nutrition label list sugar alcohols. What is the effect of sugar alcohols on our body and blood sugar levels?
What is the what? The effect?
The effect of sugar alcohols.
Yeah, so we have these artificial sweeteners or non-nutritive sweeteners, we call them. So non-nutritive, they don't have any calories, they don't have any carbohydrates or sugar in them. And so I'm the type of woman who goes back to the basics. So we're promoting whole food, real food whenever possible, and you don't find artificial sweeteners in those types of foods, right? That being said, there's a place for it. If you're feeling like you need something sweet and it's really hard to control your blood sugar, then absolutely there's a place for that, to have that instead of added sugar so that your blood sugars can be maintained, because we know the results of high blood sugars or unmanaged blood sugars. We know that's going to cause damage. Whereas with the artificial sweeteners, there's some studies, but they're very short studies, so we don't have that long-term effect, but they could be safe over the long term. So definitely just go with what we know. There's some studies out that show we're not sure exactly what they're doing. Does it make us more hungry? You know, it preps our body for something sweet. When we know that something's sweet, it's usually a carbohydrate, and then our bodies prepare to digest carbohydrates. So whether or not we're eating more from drinking a Diet Coke later on, we don't know. We don't have those studies out, but it's suggested, and so really back to the basics whenever possible. And if you feel like you need something sweet and you can't control your blood sugars without them, then have them. I hope that helps.
So at this point, we're going to stop this part of it. We're all going to do a bit of a stretch break. So remember, there's booths out there. I want people to come out, walk around, stretch. We're going to come back in a few minutes. We'll call you back in. Remember to fill out evaluation forms as we're going along and to get the booths ticked off for the raffle draw at the end. A big round of applause for Cristina. Thank you so much. That was fantastic.